Well, good morning. My diet continues this morning, and my interest really in the relationship between the diet and the Word of God. That's something that's really been, I'm almost obsessing over it lately. Um, I'm finding, of course, a lot of confirmation in the Bible that we should be eating the fatted calf, which is the meal that was reserved for the prodigal son. I'm sure everybody remembers that parable. Um, of course, there are verses in the Bible that we need to consider, I think, and certainly the condition of Daniel and Abednego and I forget the other two names at the moment, but his three companions, where they opted to eat pulse, so probably lentils, I suppose. I don't know exactly what type of pulse, rather than having the king's fare. Um, and their health was greater than the health of their uh, compatriots or other men who had chosen to eat meat sacrificed unto idols. So really, what the Bible is telling us is that, rather than eating meat sacrificed unto idols, and that you could possibly make a case to say that that would be halal, for example, which is very freely available in this country, then your health will be better served by eating pulse. And I think there might be some confirmation of this among nutritionists and dietary experts. I know people have often said that a diet of pulse is very healthy. I don't know, maybe it always is, but it would be the healthy alternative, should we say? This was also something of perhaps a miraculous intervention. I don't think it can be taken from that we should be eating pulse, although I tried to use that message to myself, as it were, in choosing my diet in the past. But it's a superficial interpretation. And then the Bible also says in Proverbs that better a dinner of herbs than the fatted calf, than an ox than a stalled ox in hatred. I think I've got it more or less right. So yes, again, a stalled ox is a fatted calf, and it is the absolute top food, it seems, from the Bible. But if of course, if hatred is to be present in your heart and in the house, then a dinner of herbs will serve you better. That's pretty clear. But I think, generally speaking, the carnivorous diet is biblical. The only thing that seems to not fit in with the carnivorous diet, I suppose, is bread, which carnivores tend not to eat, but that, it was obviously eaten in ancient times, and it's certainly a biblical food. There's no question of it. Although whether it's a food of preference or not, I don't know, because again, David and his band ate the shewbread when they were starving, but that was again that the conditions were rather extreme, weren't they? In that moment, I'm not suggesting people didn't eat bread, but probably it would have been a lesser part, a minor part of their diet. And then, of course, we have the parable of the loaves and the fishes. The two cases when loaves and fishes were distributed to feed a multitude. So, and fish is, of course, part of the carnivore diet. You can eat actually scaly fish, as the Bible seems to suggest. Um, I've seen some criticism of crustaceans. I don't know whether that's uh, true or not in terms of nutritional quality, but certainly ordinary fish, and particularly oily fish, are very much part of the diet. I haven't had them myself yet, or not very much, but I have no problem, and I will be including them in the diet. So the Bible, to me, does indeed support this, and the unusual thing that anybody who studied this will come to understand is that it has been the church behind the perverting of the true type of eating, because in the olden days, even back, should we say, it was only my parents' generation probably that moved away from a more traditional, beef and gravy and potatoes perhaps diet. But money was always the problem, I suppose, because the butcher shop would be the most expensive shop that you visited, and so in times of hardship, people were obliged to choose lower quality foods. They couldn't afford the meat. But now, interestingly enough, I find I go into the supermarket, and I was in this morning, and there is literally, well, not literally, there's one thing that I do buy in the supermarket, and that is sparkling mineral water. And I buy a large quantity, and also lard, which I can't get at the butcher's. So I don't need to buy much lard. It's very cheap in this country. And my supermarket, bill has gone, and I get the best quality mineral water that I can find. And I struggle to spend £5 or maybe £10 in the supermarket with those purchases. And then I spend my money at the butcher shop, and I go on a Friday, and I have not yet spent more than £30. And yesterday I spent £30 and came back because I chose some more economical cuts, and I bought a whole chicken. I came back with the bag. My bag is very heavy. I think that food will be ample for a week. It's hard to say because I've got some food in the house. I've got some meat in the freezer. I've got two small freezers. A slightly odd way of living, but that's how it worked out. And two mainly empty fridges now because there's nothing to put in the fridge. It's an extraordinary thing. All my cupboards are bare. I don't need cupboards in the house because I don't need to store canned goods or dry goods. I'm keeping a bit of flour, but everything else is surplus to requirements, and I'm spending less. When I was, eating a very varied diet, and my varied diet also included wine and spirits. I should emphasize that. But I, on occasion, it was not unusual for me to spend £100 in the supermarket once a week. It might have been £80. It might have been as low as 70, but it was usually, around about 80 or 90. The bill was quite high. Of course, buying a bottle of spirits would make quite a dent in that, and it could be up to £20. Perhaps I was doing that on a weekly basis, but it seemed to me that it fitted in okay with my diet, and I enjoyed it. But my weekly shopping has gone down dramatically with the meat diet. I don't need as much. You don't need to eat quite as much food and cook as often. It's a very strange sensation. The only thing that I really have is salt, and I've bought 3 or 4 different types of salt. And there's meat in the freezer, and there's meat in the fridge. And when I'm hungry, I'll just eat some. And it's just so simple. Um, my energy level is just increasing from day to day. And my sense of vigor is increasing. But I have had some problems, some gut issues, and this could be due to my continued use of coffee. I did have a coffee this morning, and that will be the only one that I will allow myself. In fact, this morning I had two coffees because this is the morning when I go into the pub and meet up with my friend from Hong Kong, and we have a little chat. So I had a coffee in the pub, and with a little bit of milk in it as well. So those are things that can trigger a reaction. If this business of oxalate dumping is true, and it does seem to be, then there will be periods of difficulty, and it has to be taken into account. There are strategies that I can adopt to minimize it. One of them is to have a little bit of lemon juice, I've heard, or perhaps some apple cider vinegar from time to time. It alleviates the symptoms of the removal of oxalic acid from the body, because it builds up over a lifetime. This is the problem, and the body can't deal with it, and it's the reason that we get sick. So it has to be removed. I don't know whether it ever will be completely removed, but it's just a process. But it was the Seventh-day Adventist Church that started our current obsession with, or the obsession current, it's been going on for about 100 years probably, or if not longer. The gradually expanding idea that the thing that makes us sick is meat and fat, and the things that will make us healthy are, greens and fruits and vegetables, and avoiding meat in our diet. This was a Seventh-day Adventist teaching, and Ellen White, the prophetess, who was very clearly a false prophet, and contains all sorts of mystical aspects to her teachings, very much connected to Madame Blavatsky and people like this who are clearly part of the deception. So that was a wicked teaching, but it spread very quickly, or they must have had a great influence in government and in healthcare, because the message then became this, and people started to believe that we need our greens and we need to eat our leafy greens, the very things that are actually harming us, and to minimize our consumption. And the butcher shops many have closed down now, and there are many halal butchers in the area, but there are still a few regular butchers, and the prices are, yeah, sure, if you're going to buy T-bone steak, it's the most expensive cut that they have, but there's loads of other cuts that they sell, and they're just really, really nutritious and really good, and far more economical. So once again, the church is behind this changing of of the narrative, and driving our health into the ground, and driving us into the arms, or driving the gullible, I would say, into the arms of the National Health Service, or your local health care system, where they will accompany you on a pathway of care. I think it's called that, which is essentially controlled dying, and they will continue all the while to provide you with so-called health care, and you will be unwell, and you will have to get one of those little scooters to ride around on after a while, and you'll become, I would suppose you would say, a burden on the economy, but they don't see it that way. You're actually generating revenue for a whole load of people working in that system. They actually need people to go in there and say, I don't feel well. Because the minute you do that, the revenue stream starts, um, and then people have to be involved and have to do their work and have to be paid. And of course, they will make sure that a product is recommended or a product is given to you. You won't pay for it in this country if you're my age. You'll get all your medicines free. But of course, the burden is on the poorest people, as always, and it will be paid for through inflation. God bless everybody this morning.